Today, in our learning experience lesson, we're going to look at the importance of bees and our food. Now, bees are really important with our food because they pollinate lots of crops. So, in many countries, beekeepers have become contract pollinators rather than honey producers, okay? So, what this means is beekeepers are moving beehives to orchards and crop fields at the right time in their life cycle so that they can be pollinated successfully. Now, this has direct effects and indirect effects on the food that we eat, okay? It's actually estimated that one third of our food that we eat is pollinated by bees. Okay, and bees in the UK actually pollinate 70 different types of crops. They also make 6,000 tons of honey and contribute to 400 million pounds to the economy, and that's just in the UK. So, if we're looking at a colony of bees, which would contain around 50,000 bees, sometimes even more, each year they can pollinate up to 4,000 square meters of fruit trees. Okay, so if we look at food production, bees actually um, they increase the food quantity. So bees and other pollinated insects are currently improving the food production of 2 billion small farmers worldwide, helping to ensure their food security for the world's population. Now, they also increase the quality of our food. So, foods richest in micronutrients, such as fruits and vegetables, um, depend on pollination. And if a plant's been well pollinated, so they've received quite a large amount of pollen, um, the fruit will develop larger and more uniform. Now, what this means, I'll give you an example, okay? So, an example of this would be round apples. Round apples would mean that they've had sufficient pollination, whereas if the apple was misshapen, it would imply that there's been insufficient pollination. Um, but also, the amount of pollen that a plant gets actually increases the taste of our food. So the direct effects of bees on our food. Now, in the UK, bees pollinate 70 crops directly, the crops that we eat. Okay, and many of flowering food crops in the UK rely on honeybees. So examples of this are apples, pears, blueberries, strawberries. There's others on this page that you can have a look. Okay, also broccoli. So lots of fruit and vegetable. Now, that's the food direct effects of bees on our food. That's the food that we eat personally. Okay, now the indirect effects. So pollination is not just important for the food we eat directly. It's vital for the foraging crops such as field beans and clover, which is used to feed the livestock we depend on for meat. So an indirect effect of pollination of bees and pollination is that they pollinate the food for the animals that we eat. So just as importantly, it helps feed many other animals in the food chain that maintains the generic diversity of flowering plants. So, for example, some animals that we might eat other animals, and the other animals would eat the crops that have been pollinated. Now, your task, first of all, what I would like you to do is create two lists of food that's impacted by the pollination process. So one list should be a direct impact of pollination that we eat. Okay, so that would be apples, broccoli. The second list should be an indirect impact of pollination. So the crops that have uh, the crops that feed the livestock, so livestock would be on that list. Okay, and then secondly, I would like you to make a food diary of what you have eaten today or what you are going to eat tomorrow. Okay, then I want you to imagine that bees were to become extinct, and these crops that bees pollinate wouldn't be able to survive. So how much of what you have eaten or you will eat would not be available if these bees were to disappear?